Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 836, Garry and Richard are here. We've got lots to talk about. We've got the latest Windows Insider news, big Microsoft acquisition news. We've got updates on problems with patches that Microsoft released last week, EV news, and lots more. So let's get straight to Garry and Richard. Richard and Garry, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, and well done, Garry, for being renewed your Windows Insider MVP.
Yeah, I know. We've got major Microsoft news tonight, haven't we? Ian's been renewed as Windows Insider MVP.
Yeah, I've not been for some reason. Don't know why. Just I have no idea why.
I don't think you're on their blacklist anymore. Until your next article, anyway. So well done for that, Garry. So that's good. We can continue to bring insider news, Windows Insider news, and hopefully we'll get some bits and pieces we can use to help. We have got plans for a really good interview coming up in a few weeks' time, Microsoft related. So we can talk about that as we get the details sorted. But that's coming up soon as well. So I think we're looking forward to that one.
That would be really good.
So there's been quite a bit on the Microsoft side this week. First of all, I'm really glad I didn't install that server patch last week that came out. Now, I know some people are very religious about installing their patches the second Microsoft released them, but I'm a little bit more reticent than that and like to see if other people can find the issues first. So I'm glad I did do that this time, because I don't know what we talked about this week, but it was breaking things all over, wasn't it? Rebooting domain controllers, Hyper-V.
Yeah, it was a bad one actually. This one was. Yeah, so this is obviously last week was Patch Tuesday. We're recording this on the 18th.
So we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, it was and it came out. And the thing about these patches is they're security patches, and so you do need to get them on because they're fixing holes in the system. They're fixing vulnerabilities that have been discovered. So they're pretty important stuff. The problem was these patches they released. Most of them had a problem last year with patches that broke things. These patches really broke things. We had I think editions of Windows were unable to use VPNs under certain circumstances. You had Hyper-V not starting on some servers. You had some domain controllers going, just randomly restarting. And of course, it was the whole range of OSs. You had, I think, Server 2019, Server 2012 were having problems. You had problems on Windows 10. You had problems on Windows 11. It was just, I think for administrators, it must have been a nightmare. I suspect end users, unless they're using this particular type of VPN, weren't necessarily so badly affected. But I think certainly for admins who are encouraged to put these patches on quickly because they are security, these weren't good. So today, or last night, we've had the patch for the patch. And I think they've even had to redo the patches for Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008. Such was the blast radius of this particular cock-up. So yeah, not good. But they appear to have fixed the issues today. And again, I'm not going to go through all the non-knowledge-based numbers, but I think if you look at the Windows release health dashboard, you'll find mostly what you need to know. But it's one of those things. I mean, it's, as you know, I get concerned about Microsoft and quality. This is, again, you have to wonder whether these things should have gone out in the state that they were in, because they have caused some problems. But equally, I think it's a lesson for admins that with any patch, you have to test it first and have a rollback strategy. Because the problem with a lot of these issues, particularly the Hyper-V issue, I think also did it also stop? Is it the Windows resilient file system? Did that stop working for some people? And the only way to deal with it was to actually back out the patch.
Yeah,
which is less than ideal. But
you've got that. For me, it's the issue between you installing it and it becoming general knowledge that the fix is to get to back out the patch, or you just have to figure that out yourself.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, Microsoft went very, very quiet. They didn't talk for a long time about what was going on. And so admins were left looking at various websites to realize, one, that they weren't alone. It wasn't something that they were doing, and also the only way around it was going to be to back things out. I think with the VPN, under certain, because it's to do with the vendor ID, isn't it, on the VPN? Yeah. I think for the VPN you were able to you could fix it on server side if you had access to that ID field, but otherwise it was a case of backing it out until the patch came a week later. So yeah, not great.
Hyper-V one is a pretty nasty one as well, because a lot of places where they've got on-prem servers will just have Hyper-V servers and everything, and then so one patch like that. I mean, I don't know how many virtual machines people have on these Hyper-V servers, but I know I've got loads, and it's taking them all down.
They all email me, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that's a frightening proposition, because it's you're into business continuity in the plans then. So you do. I mean, I've mentioned it before, but sort of in my day job, we do. One of the things we have to do is patch Windows 11 devices, and we use Windows Update Server, and we have a test group. So we get the patches from Microsoft, we issue them to test group, which are split across the whole business, so that we know it's not one kind of person or one kind of device. So we've got a fairly good broad test subjects, and then if there's an issue, then we've got we can back it out of those select groups, and we don't roll it out. Everything's fine, we can push it out. But for servers, it's a bit more difficult to have that. You've got to effectively, you'd have to just have hardware sat there just to be tested once a month for patches for Microsoft, which is which makes it more complicated again. So I think sysadmins get burnt by these issues, and then it makes people not want to patch the systems straight away. So which isn't good for security. So Microsoft are very careful. And what was sort of in the back of my mind when I saw this as well was the printing issues from last year, where there was a patch. Well, there was a system update which broke printing, then there was a patch which broke something else. I think they took about 3 goes on that one, didn't they? And that was what was worrying me. Imagine if your Hyper-V server, you're messing about with it for a week on and off, trying to patch things all the time, and it's not good. So hopefully that's all resolved now, and people can put these things out without worrying about them.
Yes, I mean, I think now it seems to have gone back down to the background noise of complaints whenever patches happen, but it was a big old spike last week for sure. And so hopefully, yes, the patch has fixed the patch, and we won't need to have one more patch to fix the patch to fix the patch.
Yeah, hopefully. And there was quite a few patches, wasn't there, last week in Patch Tuesday? There were some. I didn't read all of them, but I did look at the Windows 11 ones and the Windows 10 ones. There was nothing major that you would on the Windows client side, some API things like that. So it wasn't too big of an impact to put that one, to hold that one.
Yeah, I mean, there was some. You had. I think there was what 96 new CVEs. I think in that, which is it's not ideal, but not too bad. But I don't think any were being exploited. I mean, there was at least one critical flaw, I think. But again, with all these things, you kind of want to say you do need to patch this stuff. And it is a pain because it's on servers and things. But Windows is such a, and it's not just Windows. I mean, obviously, other OSs also are very big and sprawling now. So when one does patch these things, there could be unforeseen things. But yes, I take what you're saying, that it's hard to have servers to test these patches on first, but I think maybe the experience of this could be that admins will start looking at is there a way we can trial these patches first, because it's getting to the point now with Microsoft where you can't necessarily trust these things. If you're putting them on production critical systems, you can't trust them as soon as they arrive. Maybe you want to actually make sure that whatever is in your environment isn't going to upset what's in those patches, because Microsoft it's not getting better. Let's put it that way. I know software development's hard, but Garry doesn't break the things with his software patches. So I expect Gary's got a far smaller surface area to deal with.
Yeah, more than likely. that sort of number of people.
I mean, with Windows, and again, I say also Mac OS Linux. So I'm always vaguely amazed that they even work, let alone get patched and things, because they're so big now and so complicated in terms of what happens inside them. So it's impressive enough that Microsoft even get updates out that even work, let alone ones that fix issues.
Well, Microsoft this week have certainly been splashing the cash, haven't they? So there's no shortage of. Actually, they might need to be saving a bit of money on testing now, because they're spending some of their cash.
Wow, yeah. This is. I presume you're talking about what happened today, which basically it ended the news cycle today. It was that's it today. Yeah, so there's nobody make any more announcements. This is it. This is the it's 68.7 billion. Which is what the all cash transactions currently valued at, and that's so Microsoft can buy Activision Blizzard for I think $95 a share is the price they put on it, and wow, it's gonna. I mean, it makes Microsoft enormous in the gaming market. I mean, it was already a big noise, but I don't know what the stats are, but that means they're getting IP like World of Warcraft and Diablo and Call of Duty. So there's some huge...
Candy Crush.
Wasn't that already part of Windows?
Yeah, the way that they try and get it, they keep installing on my devices, I felt so. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to make. I think what the thing I saw in the filing that it's the third largest gaming company by revenue, behind Tencent and Sony. It's just huge. I mean, just enormous. Although, it's not going to close. I think until it's 2023, isn't it? And I would think a lot of regulators are going to want to have a very close look at this from an antitrust standpoint because it's just huge. I mean, it's absolutely massive.
I could tell it was a big story because when my sons came home from work, that's the first thing they came in to tell me about. And I'd obviously seen it, but this is a big deal to them. They're Call of Duty players and they're Diablo and Overwatch, and they play these games, and this is massive because they can just see it being more content being available on Game Pass. That's the way they see it.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yes, and of course. Although it's not going to be on Game Pass until the deal closes, is it? So it won't be until next year. Yeah,
but they were really excited, and makes some of the first things. I wonder if they'll just make Call of Duty Xbox only.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to think Microsoft is surely won't spend that much money to make PlayStation only titles. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with it. But it's a well, whoever said I don't think anybody said it for a while, but they weren't taking. If anybody said Microsoft weren't taking gaming seriously, I mean, this is. It just shows that their investment in gaming, not just on the infrastructure, for the Azure side or the hardware from the Xbox side, but in actual content. It seems to me like that they're making sure that they may be out of the content was an issue. Go back to Windows Phone, app content was an issue, and maybe they see. TV companies like Apple got their own TV platforms, and Microsoft, I think, are just making sure they are one of the, like you said, the third largest now gaming platform. So it's amazing. From where it started, anyway, with the Xbox, the original Xbox.
Well, exactly. I think Game Pass would pretty much essentially. Game Pass was already, I think, an extraordinarily good deal. But this is going to make it essential. I think to all gamers, and you got to think that they're surely going to be pushing the Xbox and probably the xCloud quite hard on this.
Do you think we'll see an increase in cost on Game Pass?
I mean, I can't see how one wouldn't see some kind of few dollars a month extra because because the library is going to increase. And I think that they could probably put a dollar or two on it. I mean, other streaming services going up like Netflix. I can easily see this being good justification. I mean, they're going to have to make this money back somehow. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a very small increase, or maybe perhaps another tier.
Maybe, but I know why Jackson got the play. I mentioned a few weeks ago, got a PlayStation, and you said the PlayStation Network thing is way poorer quality. Well, costings and everything. It's just the Xbox is live, and Xbox Game Pass is just a massive leaps ahead of the PlayStation version.
Yeah. I mean that's my experience. I mean, I use a PlayStation version and I use Game Pass as well, and. The PlayStation version is fine. I can play a bunch of old PS3 games working it as well. But ultimately, you go to the Game Pass, and it's just what's there is just huge. And xCloud works incredibly well. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess Sony's still got what, Spider-Man. So
yeah, yeah, that's right. I was, and I think it seems to perhaps come at a good time because I think Activision have had some issues, haven't they, with the various issues, staffing type issues, not technical ones.
yeah. Although to be fair, so have Microsoft.
Yes.
Yeah. Activision, I think perhaps Activision Blizzard rather. Yeah, they've been subject to lawsuits for harassment and discrimination and what have you, which is, never good. I mean, I think the culture of Activision Blizzard, maybe it's changed in more recent times, but I think certainly, I think the existing management will carry on until the deal's closed, and then I think after that it's all going to report to Phil Spencer, isn't it, in Microsoft? So I would think at that point that it will have had to have changed. I don't know if Microsoft is buying any liability for these suits, are they?
That's a good question, actually. I noticed the acquisition email went on about being equitable to everybody.
Oh yeah. Well, exactly. Yes. I mean, it said things like, it's gonna, Microsoft operates a zero tolerance policy for this and that, whatever else. Oh yes, sure you do. Yeah, but bear in mind your stockholders in the last last year voted for a review into your harassment policy. So perhaps not that squeaky clean after all. But I mean, I've got to say, Microsoft is full of very smart, clever people who will be looking at this and they'll be looking to see what their management do. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. But I do wonder how much liability or potential liability from Activision's various lawsuits that Microsoft is now going to be on the hook for if still.
Yeah, because a lot of the lawsuits were personally against the president, weren't they? So
CEO, yeah,
your CEO. So maybe not, but it'd certainly be interesting to see. I know. I mean, the other thing, of course, at the moment is that a lot of the Blizzard staff are actually out on strike at the moment, aren't they? Over this whole thing, so maybe begin maybe get some production back on them if they're more satisfied with the takeover. It's definitely interesting, whole interesting thing to go. I mean, we were having a discussion about this lunchtime today with some friends who are all gamers, and they were sort of bemoaning what happens to companies that Microsoft take over. The game seems that they seem to suddenly stop producing anything.
Well, I guess so. Although one can also point out to where it succeeds, like Minecraft and GitHub has done very well since they. I mean, I would think that the thing you'll see will perhaps be the the Microsoft account requirement might start to appear in some games, perhaps. But I don't know. I mean, they've been better in recent years at not sort of killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. I think perhaps they'll be careful.
Yeah.
I think was it $2.5 billion they paid for Mojang that for Minecraft? So that seems like small change now.
Yeah, because I think Bethesda was wasn't that 7.5 billion or
yeah.
And then this I think is their biggest purchase, I think, so far.
Is, I think, LinkedIn was 26.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to think that the GitHub was only 7.5 or so billion. This is just enormous. But I mean, crikey, you are buying an awful lot of players and an awful lot of eyeballs of this.
Yeah. Do you remember when they were trying to buy Yahoo?
Yes.
Yeah. That's one that didn't go through.
I tell you who I wish they would buy. I'm not quite sure why they haven't done it yet, and that's Discord. Discord would be a good purchase for Microsoft because in terms of gaming, because it's a real pain making Discord work if you're playing Xbox, and everyone uses Discord, but of course you can't use Discord on Xbox at the same time as playing a game, which is a bit of a pain.
Yeah, and I've seen someone suggested that they should go for something like Netflix to get some content.
Well, they used to have Microsoft movies and things, didn't they? So
yeah, they did have they had a studio, didn't they, for a while?
Crikey, I mean, it was games and movies and crikey music and things. It's a shame there's no centre for playing all that media through.
Oh, don't start. If only.
What would you call such a product that would be a centre for the media in your home? I can't think of what you'd call that, actually.
Oh, Xbox Media Centre.
Anyway, I mean, I
call it freestyle.
I mean, I'm not a huge gamer, if I'm honest. I mean, I tend to go back as far as Age of Empires and Microsoft Flight Sim, but Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting move. I think because I think it's probably a good time to pick up Activision, and we'll see if Microsoft can deal with the culture that so many people appear to be unhappy about at Activision. But certainly, it's a real sort of vote of confidence in the Xbox ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So anybody who said that they thought that Microsoft were losing interest in gaming, definitely not the case. Now, moving back to the Windows side of things, so Windows Insider News, we got a new build last week. 22533.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you installed that one.
I did do that.
New volume slider.
I was going to say the new volume slider, which everyone went mad about. Said how exciting is it? I have to say I hadn't actually noticed the old one being a problem, but apparently it was a big problem for many people. So
it was, yeah. There was a lot of people didn't like that, and I kind of see why. I mean, yeah, it didn't really bother me, but it's from what when was it? It's the actual one that's currently in Windows 11 is actually the Windows 8 version.
At this point, I'm just going to say again, and I know Gary's going to say the different teams and different bits of company, but this was the same week they released a patch that broke Windows Server and Hyper-V and made the main controllers restart. But don't worry, because you've also sent out a volume control that looks lovely on the screen, so everything's fine.
Yeah. I also got the new Alt Tab as well.
Yes, that was good actually.
Yeah, which it reminds me much bit more of the Windows 10 one actually. But just yeah,
it put me in mind of Windows 7 to be honest, but
yeah. I also noticed as well that the one hand thing that is actually quite, and when you do the action center and look at the volume, it's got a little symbol there to change rather than it being a little arrow, it actually shows you what speaker you've got connected, so you can adjust that as well. I mean, there was a few bits and pieces.
Did you manage to get the new calls experience to work on?
No, I haven't tried that yet.
I couldn't make it work, but that for me actually looked like being the thing I found most interesting in the whole thing was because it's been a while since we've had any major Your Phone updates, so I was quite pleased to see that come through. It looked good what I could see, but I couldn't make it work properly on my machine here.
Yeah, and have you got the new version of it, the new look on it?
I think so.
The one with you get the notifications, the Android notifications on the left hand side permanently.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the new look of it.
Yeah, it looks good. Although I think hasn't the Your Phone head honcho moved on in Microsoft now to a different part of the company?
Yes, to OneNote.
As of today, I think. Yeah. So anyone concerned that OneNote might be also dead, don't worry. Mission is the case. But I kind of hope that Your Phone will keep going from strength to strength. That even though he's not heading the CT team anymore, because he was a really good enthusiast.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he's pretty good with the community side of it as well. So that I hope the OneNote team will benefit from that as well. So
yes,
that'll be quite good.
I wish him best of luck.
Yeah. Other than the volume and brightness, there wasn't a huge amount of other changes. You can uninstall the clock now if you want. There you go. There's breaking news. And there was the usual bunch of fixes and things. The issue list is getting slightly shorter, but this is an ongoing process, isn't it? So it goes up and down depending on what they're up to at the moment. But yeah, and we also got a release for beta and release preview as well last week.
Yeah, so these I guess are things that are coming closer to actually hitting end users. So there was one for Windows 10 and one for Windows 11.
There was. And I think the main thing that it was improvements for ARM devices. So Surface Pro X, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one where they stopped responding when they hibernate or resume from hibernation was I think one of the big ones for the 3 or 4 Windows ARM users out there.
Yeah, 3 or 4. You get that in every time. Yeah. So quite a few things from it, but who knows what we'll get next? We're I suppose we're ramping up. My guess is this will just get new features coming into this dev channel, and with a update towards the end of this year. So maybe they'll cut off sometime in the summer.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because they're not going for the 2 updates with Windows 11, are they?
No, so I think what we're going to get in release preview is just kind of bug fixes, minor tweaks and things, which will just roll out at various times of the course of the year. And there'll be, well, I guess we'll see probably early summer, whatever major thing they have planned for the Q4 release, the October update, whatever it is.
The beta and release preview are still getting the same builds as well, which they have been doing since Windows 11 shipped. So it's the longest time I know that those 2 channels have been sort of synchronized. Normally, the beta's ahead of the release preview.
Maybe they'll start to rename them again and move them around. It's been at least a week since they last changed. Sorry, Brandon.
And the Xbox team still use the old ones, don't they, with rings and skipper heads and things like that?
Yes, they do.
I've given up with it on Xbox. Jason was our only track of keeping up with Xbox updates.
Yes, I mean, I keep thinking that I should kind of put because I've got a Series S, I should put that on one of the insider rings. I think, yeah, but I really like being able to just turn it on and play things when I want to. So instead of turning it on, it's crashed. It's broken.
I think I should be getting the Series S. Really, I've still got a day one edition Xbox One. My kids are saying, "Well, why have you still got this old Xbox?"
Well, the Series X. I mean, the Series X. There does seem to be more supply around now. They seem to be appearing more. Although I have to say, I've got a Series S, and because I only use it on a sort of ordinary HD TV, it's fine. I'm so impressed actually with the Series S, the quality that comes out of it. Of this tiny little box that makes no noise and really wasn't very expensive compared to how much I've paid for games consoles in the past.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, maybe the S. It's just the only thing I use my Xbox for is Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and watching the odd Blu-ray. And I don't really watch Blu-rays very often either.
You know what? Me too. I think it was when I've now got no way of playing an actual Blu-ray disc on my projector anymore. It's all streaming stuff now. So I just use a Fire Stick for doing the likes of Amazon, Netflix, and Disney Plus.
Yeah. I think the only thing is I watch on Blu-ray now are music concert type ones, that aren't necessarily on streaming services. So sometimes I fancy a bit of music and I'll put a Blu-ray on, a concert Blu-ray, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
Having digitized all my Miami Vice and Tony Hancock DVDs, that's probably me. That's all me done.
Miami Vice.
Miami Vice and Tony Hancock. What more can you want?
Well, it's a curious
combination.
Yeah, that's my childhood.
Crockett and Tubbs do the blood donor. Yeah, I can see that.
So maybe I'll get an Xbox Series S one day.
I have to say, I mean, I don't normally recommend this, but it was a bit like when I got the Nintendo Wii, and then it wasn't that expensive, and it's just for the old ad hoc bit of gaming, I'm running Flight Sim on it, Forza on it, Sea of Thieves on it. I'm not having any problems with disk space yet, so.
Yeah, it's a Flight Sim. I really enjoyed that when I had it on Game Pass. I mean, one thing I do need to do is I've got a PC sort of stick and throttle and stuff, and that's okay, but it doesn't really work properly on the Xbox. So I may have to invest in some new gear there, and it's looking like the actual controls are going to cost more than the Xbox. Yeah, my wheel was almost it wasn't an expensive one, but it's not far off the price of an Xbox. But yeah, I do like that.
I mean, the other thing about the Xbox too, which I've noticed that the PS4 doesn't do, is it's much better at silently updating itself. In that, I never have any problems with things not being up to date, because when I'm playing things on PC, I'll open up Game Pass or whatever, and then have to wait an hour while it downloads this week's update, and it's the same on PlayStation. Whereas the Xbox just seems to, I don't see it turning on. I don't see any change in power consumption, and yet it's always up to date. So it must be doing something clever in the background.
Yeah, that's good. I actually did get myself I'm very excited to try out the new toy that I got arrived today. A new power washer.
Oh yes, I saw the Karcher.
Yes.
I've got one of those. They're brilliant.
Well, I've got one that I'm gonna have, I reckon more than 10 years, and water sort of squirts out the side of it now.
That's
so
not
I thought,
good.
But, no, it's probably be about time to invest in a new one. So I did get a new one. So I'm very excited. My wife thinks I'm very strange that I just can't wait to go out and power wash every surface
She doesn't understand. Doesn't understand. It's like,
No.
But the pavement needs doing. Come on now.
It does, yeah. And it did arrive to, I thought, well, it's dark and it's currently freezing, so it's probably not the best time to go out and try this thing. But yeah, every surface outside my house is going to get power washed to within an inch of its life.
Excellent, good. What to hear.
And it does come with an app.
Oh, really? Mine didn't.
Yes, it comes with the CarShare app. I don't think it's not Bluetooth or.
What does it do? Because you just basically you basically turn it on, you put it in the water, and you press the trigger. What does the app do? I'm curious now.
I shall let you know when I've tried it. Maybe I'll have tried it by the weekend.
That seems like app for the sake of it.
Yes, it suddenly it's like my
sakes, yeah.
Yes. That's very good. That was a 10cc song, wasn't it? But yeah, well, my Uni pizza oven came with an app as well. So there you go, apps for everything. What else did we have to? Oh, I tell you what, I did get to play with this week. Windows 11 SE.
Oh, really? So have you got one of the laptops?
No.
Oh.
So I'm not really.
I was all excited then.
Yes. So it's not really and I did qualify this in the video that I did. It's not really a fair test because Windows 11 SE is designed to go with the low-cost devices, which Microsoft have announced a load of today, actually, haven't they? There's Acer, Asus. I didn't know Toshiba have rebranded their. Well, it's not Toshiba anymore. They've split off their PC division, haven't they? And they've now called something else, Dyna something. I can't remember what they're called now. Anyway, so I tested this on a virtual machine. So I had a virtual machine of Windows 11 SE, so I could have a quick play with it. And unsurprisingly, it looks like Windows 11. What I did notice, though, is there's no Windows Store, so you can't go and install things on Windows Store. And you can't right-click on the Start menu and get all the menu options. And there's a few less things. I think widgets weren't there, and there was a few bits and pieces. Oh, and apps run full screen as well, which I know Microsoft mentioned, which I can understand perhaps with those lower res screens, the cheaper devices. But you can still window them as well, which is so like if you launch Calculator, it launches full screen, but you can actually put it back into a window if you want.
All right, cool.
But yeah, it's Windows 11. Once I activated the proper lockdown mode, that was it. So before I activated the lockdown, I was able to install install some applications, and then once I enabled the lockdown, it properly locked down then, and I couldn't run anything. But interesting, you can certain things like Zoom and Chrome actually work without you having to. You have to install them, but they're not locked down in the S mode. So you remember the Windows 10 S mode?
Yeah,
it's very much like that, but with an exception list, including a lot of applications that education would use.
Interesting.
And I think admins can override that as well. But by default, Chrome, Zoom, and there's a Microsoft got a list of them. They work out of the box anyway, so you still got to install them, but they're not blocked in the lockdown mode. So yeah, it was interesting to play with. It didn't seem to take that much resources. Or my virtual machine was running with automatic memory, and it was using 2 gig, and and it didn't seem to be any limitation. It wasn't like you could only open 4 apps at once or anything. I had Edge open and Calculator and File Explorer, and you could just do all the usual Windows things. So I think a proper test is to get one of the devices to play with. But I think even then, I don't think you're getting the proper experience unless you're an IT administrator, education administrator, where you've got the Intune set up and everything else, because that's the full experience. But it seems to do a job, and it'll be interesting to see how well it does in the education market.
Yeah.
So that's at least it's another version of Windows that I can say I've tested. The laptop, you can't buy that, can you? It's available, I think, through education now, but you can't actually just order it, can you? You've got to get it through an education reseller. and even then, it's not. I don't think it's really. It's interesting for curiosity, but it's not something that I don't think any of us as the target market for.
Yeah. I think they've I think they actually were made available today, I believe, through education channels in the UK at least. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, as you say, they aren't aimed at us, but as I think I said last week, I am on the lookout for a new laptop for my wife, and all she wants is a white one. And I'm looking at these laptop SEs, and you know what, this would probably do what she needs actually, if high enough spec.
Yeah, I'm hoping Microsoft offer them through the store. I suppose what they've got to be careful of is the problem that we have with Windows RT that Garry noticed, back in when that first came out, when people were returning them to John Lewis. Is if it's Windows, it's got to do everything Windows does, and if it's locked down and you can only run certain applications, that's never going to go in a retail store.
Absolutely right. Yes, I mean, if you see a range of devices, and there's one for £229, someone's going to buy that and get upset when it doesn't do what the £1,000 device does.
Yeah. So I think, but what I did notice during the testing and poking around is, despite the store not being there, if you don't lock it down, if you don't flip the switch to lock it down, you can install whatever you want on it. But without the store on there, it's not something Microsoft are going to want to give to retail consumers. But there could be maybe a Windows, maybe that Surface Laptop SE Consumer Edition that just runs normal Windows 11. Maybe that would be an option.
Yep.
I would imagine you could probably just reinstall Windows on these things as well. It's just Windows, isn't it? So if you've got admin on it, then you can probably just install the full version.
Yes, I mean they are stock Windows hardware, so I can't imagine why you couldn't.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so there's a lot, like you said, they announced quite a few today, so they're now available today. So that's pretty good. So I think I'll still be waiting for a laptop studio or something like that on my end of the market. I'm still holding out for till I find something. Maybe a Surface Laptop 5 when that comes out. My all this Hyper-V stuff that I'm doing is 8 gig of RAM is. I keep having to close everything down just to get something like Windows 11 to run under Hyper-V, because that needs 4 gig of RAM to start.
I'm going to be quite annoyed now and say I'm going to be quite annoyed now and say that on my M1 Mac Mini with 8 gigs of RAM, it will quite happily run as many Windows 11 VMs as you want in using Parallels. So, and they work really well too, really fast.
Yeah, I believe it's a good experience, isn't it?
I mean, it does make me the other ARM user of Windows, but
Yeah, let's see. And then another video that I did do this week, a few weeks ago, Garry tipped me off to the beep detector, and James Duncan sent me a message saying, "How did you do that?" So I was starting to explain it to him. I thought, what, I'll just do it on a video and then do it. So James, if you can just check out the YouTube channel, you see I've done the video on that, for how to detect when your Alexas can detect audio beeping, or dogs barking, or babies crying. I think it works remarkably well, especially when you get it linked up with your smartwatch, something like that. I find it quite useful now. So yeah, I've got that set up on there. So I've just got to decide what to do next on the smart home. Garry, what have you got going on with yours? Have you got anything new set up?
I'm sort of playing around a bit with trying to integrate it into cars a bit more. I think I mentioned that device I had last week with which has got full-blown Amazon, full-blown Google on it. So I've set up Alexa on there as well now, so I can do my Alexa voice commands from the car, which is quite good for opening gates and things and getting sure the lights on and the heating's on before you get home.
In fact, that's one thing I need to try. My car keeps telling me that it's got Amazon Alexa built into it, and it keeps saying you need to just set it up. So I haven't done, so I need to give that a try and just set it up, because that's sort of built into the car itself. Then. Yeah.
But that's quite a good way of working.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I've got set up on there as well is the the smart things interface as well. So I've got some quick push buttons I can press to do certain things, like, as I said, like open gates and things like that. But that's less convenient than using your voice when it works. So yeah, it's interesting to see how all this stuff is sort of coming together now. It's nice to see some integration.
Yeah, I noticed. I think Arlo got some new. They've got a new doorbell coming out. I need to have a look at, because the Ring doorbells always look really big and chunky to me, but the Arlo one looks a bit thin and slimmer. And because I've got Arlo cameras already, it probably integrates quite nicely with that. So I think that's something I was going to have a look at. But when I've still got my my strip lights as well that I need to somehow control through maybe integrate it. But now I've got that controlling through my Windows application. There's all sorts I can do with that. In fact, I've got my smart temperature sensor, which runs on an Arduino, which talks over serial in XML. So I should be able to link those two together, my temperature and my LED light strip. So maybe I can do some kind of digital thermometer with that, something like that. So I think that's maybe what I'll look at next. Right, what else did we have? Oh, another question for Gary. Countdown is on your EV, isn't it? I know you don't want to reveal just yet, but have you made a decision?
Close. Yeah, I kind of have made a decision, but it's depending on a couple of things which are happening in the background, so which I will explain later. But yeah, but
can you see the top three choices?
I can sort of say the top three choices. So would be another I-Pace, the Kia EV6, which is definitely high up there. And actually, if you want to see my test drive, I took up the Kia EV6 thrown together as a video. It's now I think it's my quickest growing video on my YouTube channel. So incredible! I had well over 1,000 views in about 4 hours. So that's quite an interesting one. And the other one was the Volvo Xc40 I was looking at as well, which is actually a Polestar with a different body. So,
I looked very hard at the XC40 myself. I didn't care for the windscreen, believe it or not. The rest was fine. It was just a very narrow windscreen aperture.
Yeah, I mean, I think the XC40 is probably written off because of the size of it. Actually, it's huge. It's huge on the outside and tiny on the inside.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that's exactly.
So reverse TARDIS.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought, oh, this thing is massive, and I got into crikey, this thing's really small inside, and it's got a very narrow slot to stare through for the windscreen. I thought this is
Look, I mean, great drive. Don't get me wrong. It's a cracking drive for an SUV, but
I can't work out why it's so big on the outside, and yet inside it feels the size of golf.
Really weird. I had a look at a few others as well en route. The new Bmw Ix, which is a tank. It's massive. It's a great car. I mean, no doubt about it. In terms of technology, I think it's a really good car. But it is so big, ridiculously big, and it's got that new kidney grille on the front, which I just can't get over how BMW could ever style a car like that. But yeah, that's been in the looking. I've looked at other cars as well. I've looked at the ID4, which I know you were keen on, Richard, which is a great car again. Just not quite as good a range as the EV6 or the Ioniq 5.
Ranges
and the new I-Pace as well. I mean, the biggest issue at the moment is this component shortage, which is meaning a lot of cars are, which I would like, just unavailable in the timescales I've got.
Here's the problem. I mean, I was talking to one of the guys behind the Microdino. Do you remember that? The little sort of Isetta type car. And he said, right now the component short is killing them, and it's not just in chips; it's everything. It's like wiring, connectors, everything. It's kind of living 1 week to the next to try and see what you can actually get hold of. Although he did say that they're in a relatively good position because their car is so very, very simple.
Yeah, it's. I was going to ask you actually. Is it France where they're going to start to incur some extra costs based on weight?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think vehicles weight. Yeah, over a certain amount, there's an extra tax on the weight over a banding over a certain amount. So the idea behind it is, I think they're trying to encourage people to go for smaller cars because people are getting bigger and bigger SUVs and that kind of thing, and they take extra space on the roads and extra wear and tear on the roads. I wonder if that affects EVs. Are they inherently heavier because of the battery technology, or
they
is
are
it
at
just...
the moment, they are at the moment, and that is an issue really. I think we will see a change on that. I think that we are going to start to see slightly lighter batteries from some of the tech which is coming out. So I think that's gonna happen. It's going to be a while off though. I mean, this whole thing about structural batteries, where they form part of the body, that will actually reduce the weight as well, because you obviously won't have two chunks of the metal there. You'll only have the one. It's move on. I mean, there is a case for having smaller batteries in cars, in lighter cars. The same thing. I mean, was with ICE cars. If your car's lighter, it goes further on the same amount of fuel. So there's a case there. But I mean, I think although most people average around 20 to 30 miles a day on traveling, that people still want ranges over a couple hundred miles. So and at the moment, lighter weight batteries will only give you 130, 150 mile range, which is the thing. But yeah, this whole idea of taxing on weight, I think actually is actually a good idea, because you do wear and tear more with the heavier your vehicle is. And they're being pretty reasonable on the weight limits they're putting in. I mean, most of the cars I've just talked about wouldn't fall under those weight restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, the microliner definitely would, although I think it's not going to do. It won't do many miles on one battery charger for sure. Still gone quiet.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, like you said, I think there's perhaps a mindset to change. You know, I'm on the range anxiety side, where I think, well, I need 400 or 300 because I know of my longest trips. But I don't know, say on my wife's car, her longest, she's doing less than 20 miles a day, all short local trips. So it seems crazy to have a car that can do 300 miles on her side of it. So if we took another one, then.
I mean, for me, it's got to be a guaranteed 200 miles with all the aircon and heating turned on, and because we do we do perhaps once every 2 weeks a trip to and from West London, and of course that's going to involve the M25. It's going to involve air conditioning. It's going to involve all stuff. So, but most EVs can do that, to be honest. And right now, the only thing that stopped me getting an EV last time was I couldn't balance up the cost per mile. It was as simple as that. It was just a spreadsheet. It's like I couldn't get the same cost per mile for an EV. And I think next time round, I would be astonished if that equation still holds true, having seen how prices are going. Although that said, the component shortage is artificially affecting things. But I think next few years, it will be a no-brainer, because apart from maybe 2 or 3 long trips per year, an EV would do everything. Yeah.
I mean, even some of the cheaper ones now. I mean, if you look at something like the new MG SCV, that does 280 miles for £32,000, or actually probably even less than that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, there's some crazy things happening. I mean, the EV6 is supposed to do well over 300 miles, although I think real world in the winter it's so yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I still like my heated seats.
Well, I believe certain EVs with the batteries in the floor, if you aren't careful, you will get heated seats. If they got some particularly dodgy battery tech going on.
Yeah, I've seen that when things go wrong in Formula One, where some of these drivers get rather warm from those batteries.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you've seen sort of fires and things where the fire just keeps starting itself again. So yeah, but of course we've lived through that with mobile phones and laptops, so we know we understand the tech.
Of course, even taking that into account, and even taking into account the fewer EVs on the road, the actual proportion of petrol cars catching fire is way higher.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of safety equipment around the batteries, which is not necessarily around the gas tanks on there.
No, I'm trying to remember the name of the car where they chose to put the gas tank hanging over the back axle. So in a rear-end collision, it would go boom. Was that a Ford? I can't remember now. It was back
It's
in
an
the
American.
70s.
Yes, I do remember. I think it was a Netflix episode about the whole thing. I remember that, watching that. Yes, that was the case. I think they had to withdraw it in the end, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these things you learn as you're going along. Well, I'm still we'll still wait then to see what you do, Gary. It's interesting, this component shortage, how much it's affecting. My sister got a new car, and it was months of waiting, but you can't do that when your lease runs out.
That's right, and that's the problem I've had, and I'm sort of having to make compromises of whether I have a car with certain things in it. I mean, there's certain things I definitely want to have in the next car, and it's proven very difficult. And even when I think I've made a decision, then other things crop up which make it more difficult and stuff like that. It's been a very interesting ride, this one. Well, I'm pretty convinced I know what I'm going to get now, but it still depends on certain things coming together and being.
So will this time next week be the big reveal?
May well be. Yeah, we might. I might know by next week. I will certainly know by the 12th of February, because when the iPad goes back.
Well, that clock is ticking now. Goodness me.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. It's getting perilously close, and it's proving more difficult than I actually thought to get. I thought I'd have it all sewn up by the end of last year, to be honest. And it's proved a little bit interesting. But I certainly encourage people to go and have a look at that EV6 thrown together video. It's probably my most ever thrown together video, because I got about 15 minutes notice of the test drive that I was actually going to be allowed to use cameras. So I threw them in a bag and threw them in the car, and they literally bounced around a bit.
And of course, the extra wait time is because you're getting all those LED strips underneath the car and the extra. The extra large suspension, so you can make it jump up and down.
Today's cars, they all come with LED strips anyway, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're going down some estate with your car.
Yeah,
actually, that's probably more Richard style than his Golf. 30 years ago. So Gary, just give us where we can find you and where we can.
So easiest place to find me on Twitter is at Garry WMA. On Twitter, Garry with 2 R's. You can find me tweeting about my car, tweeting about fascinating tech, tweeting about Victors.
Oh yes.
We ought to just mention that. So Duxford have currently got a campaign to save the last Handy Page Victor, one of the great V bombers and then refueling aircraft, and the one that they've actually got in Duxford happens to be the one my dad flew on as crew chief. He used to claim it was his plane, although I think your dad's got a claim on there as well, hasn't he?
My dad used to be an RAF electrical engineer, and so yeah, he worked on that aircraft because we also went to Duxford back in the before times. He got very excited about it. He said, I wasn't that plane. He was almost squeaking with excitement. So
yeah, well, my dad definitely did. I mean, for my dad was incredibly possessive about that plane. I think the one thing which always got me was that he always used to say it was held together with string, and I never believed him until I saw the nacelle off of it when they were trying to renovate it, and there's string everywhere.
Yeah, string, duct tape, the works. It's a military aircraft. There, yes, they are. They keep them going a long time on basically on shoestrings.
They're a marvelous looking machine as well, aren't they? Just the swept back wings and everything just look iconic.
Well, yes, I mean, the Vulcan is obviously the old tin triangle is the ultimate, but of course the Victor was all part of that V-Force. So, I was surprised, Gary, to hear that it's the last one. Actually, I mean, obviously, obviously it's never going to fly again. But I was so surprised that there was no more left.
We're left, and I mean, there are cockpits of Victors around. I think a couple of the museums have got cockpits set up for not their whole aircraft, and this one is, I mean, it is in a bad state. They need quite a bit of money to make sure it does stay together.
Yes, I mean when we saw it, they were just starting to, they were talking about the restoration, and there was a lot of sucking through teeth of my father, that's for sure, saying, "Boy, I don't know about that. That's looking pretty bad."
So quite a bit was very rotten. But I'm obviously something I'm passionate about saving because it was my dad's plane, and your dad's plane.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, my dad was just a junior engineer, so he worked on lots and lots of the V-Force planes. He wasn't linked to one particular aircraft. He just, the fleet was was his brood.
Well, my dad did want to crash land. Well, he didn't crash land. The pilot, who was rather brilliant at the time, crash landed on an ice floe.
Oh, good.
So it's been through a bit that plane. So it really does deserve to be.
And to be honest, if you're in the area, I'd recommend a visit to Duxford anyway because it's just a brilliant place.
Yeah,
I drove past that. I don't know where I was going last year. First time I've ever seen it, but I remember it's just not. It's off the motorway, isn't it? Because I remember driving past it.
You can't miss it. There's a Concorde there. It's really worthwhile paying a visit to.
Yeah. I think I might have to have a look at that. I think it's just further down your way, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah, it's not far from me at all.
Actually, is it at Duxford where they still operate the Concorde nose on a relatively regular basis?
I believe so. I've never actually seen it myself, but I believe that is the case. Yeah. And there's a lot. I mean, they've got the whole commercial airline part there, as well as the military and a lot of other stuff, and also a military vehicle part as well, because it's all part of the Imperial War Museum as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, very very well worth a visit. And also, if you're in computing and stuff, there's some stuff about that as well there, which is worth a look.
And I'd say it's well worth perhaps bugging some pounds on the old crowdfunded page for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, send me the link for that, and we'll include that in the show notes.
I mean, that is definitely small world, though, isn't it? Because we honestly, neither of us knew that was the case until I posted about it.
So first I said, "Yeah, my dad was that." Oh, really? Yeah, really? It's astonishing. Yeah, well, my one of my uncles. Well, I would say uncles. One of the male members who are linked to my family, who you call an uncle. He used to be a pilot on one of the Vulcans. So it's small world.
It's small world.
Excellent. Well, I'll include a link for that as well. So, Richard, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Richard_Speed. About to build some new Lego.
Oh, very, very exciting. I'll tell my son he likes building Lego, although he tends to build Star Wars Lego at the moment.
I'm going for proper Star Wars, as in a James Webb Space Telescope.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we should be back same time, same place next week. You can email me, ian@thisLifestyle.com. We'll be having our special guest, so we'll probably set that up. So next week we'll be taking some questions from the community probably on that as well. So I'll talk about that next week. So until then, we'll see you next week.
Take care.